Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled People Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. My neighbor has been stealing my Wi-Fi for months. Gets exactly what she deserves. After that, am I the jerk for kicking my brother and his family out after his son stole my engagement ring? And after that, was it wrong of me to defend my husband at my son's engagement dinner? Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen has to use her own Wi-Fi. Not if I can get my hands on your password. So please smash that like button and subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. My neighbor has been stealing my Wi-Fi for months. Gets exactly what she deserves. I, 23 female, live next door to Jenny. She lives with her husband and their kid. I work almost all day outside, and in my spare time, I play games on PS4 during the week. I pay for good internet because I like not having any lag while playing or any internet slowness. My PS4 is in my room and the internet router is in the living room, so it's Wi-Fi and not cable. And because of that, I constantly check the internet speed and it's always X amount. A few months ago, I invited Jenny's family over for dinner and gave them my Wi-Fi password. Apparently, theirs was weak at my house, and I went through politeness. Last month, I started to notice very bad internet speed, 1/10 of what it was before, and a few technical visits to resolve, until the technician asked if I had passed the password to someone in the building, and I put the pieces together. I then changed the password because the internet was crap, and I didn't want to share it with 3 more people. Last week, the neighbor knocked on my door and asked for my Wi-Fi password because her internet wasn't working, and I commented saying that I changed it because there were people on it from other apartments that were using it. She got the message and said she was having a hard time and couldn't pay for her own internet. So in desperation, she used mine, and if I couldn't give her the new password, promising that they would only use it at night when they got home from work. I denied, saying that night was my leisure time too, and that I didn't want to have bad internet, and I don't want to pay more for the internet to be good for 4 people, and even more so for her to be using it for a month without my permission. She stomped off and, oh goodness, my new image in the building is being the petty jerk who doesn't want to share Wi-Fi with people who are struggling financially. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. Why should you have to pay the bills for her, especially when she was stealing it and making you suffer through trying to figure out what was wrong? And it's definitely not a one-time thing. They did it constantly, and I'm 100% sure it's not just for sending emails or something work-related. Must be streaming something or other stuff, and it's more than just 1 or 2 people using it to make OP's side so slow. 100% I agree. I live with my boyfriend, and we had another roommate. Boyfriend would game, I would send occasional work emails and did other remote work, and roommate would do nothing but, very loudly, stream movies when she came home. Internet would always be fine when it was just me occasionally checking emails and my boyfriend gaming, but the minute the roommate came home, the internet would practically stop working. My emails wouldn't even send at all, and games became completely unplayable. When the roommate moved out, we haven't had issues with the internet speed since. Am I the jerk for kicking my brother and his family out after his son stole my engagement ring? The reason I, 26 male, know is because I literally caught him in my room going through my things, and it's on camera. My nephew is 9 and he has a habit of stealing things. They've gotten in trouble a few times at stores because he'd leave with something in his pocket. But of course, because he's a kid, they usually just say he forgot he had it. Even at school, my brother has told me they've had to come talk to the principal on a couple of occasions. Doesn't seem like they've done anything to stop it. They had to come stay here with me because my brother lost his job and they weren't going to make it with all their bills, including rent. He's doing Uber right now while he searches for a job, and they can move out. I didn't want to because of my nephew specifically, but family is family, I guess. A month ago, I finally bought an engagement ring for my girlfriend that I was planning on proposing to soon, but now I don't know. It's a $4,000 ring that I spent over a year saving up for. It's been hidden in my room under one of the drawers. One time, when I found him snooping in my room, I told my brother to control his kid, then got one of those cheap spy cams in my room just in case. Then, last week, I noticed it was out of its box. After checking the camera, it showed he was in there again when I wasn't home. My brother and his wife have yelled at him. He says he left it by the TV in the guest room, but it's not there. They looked through all their stuff and his too. I know for a fact he's lying about not having it because that's the same thing he said about one of my watches he took, then ended up finding it. By the second day, my brother tells me that they can't find it at all. and I told him either they find the ring or he repays me the $4,000 I spent on it. If not, they can't stay here anymore. My brother got really upset. He told me I know how their situation is right now, and yeah, it's a tough spot, but I couldn't ignore the fact that his kid he can't parent took something extremely important to me that cost a lot of time and money. They were given a week to leave my house if they don't find the ring. They're having to stay at a cheap motel, but my brother won't stop begging to come back because what they're paying right now each night is coming directly out of their savings. He won't stop calling me heartless about letting something like this come between helping them out through a difficult time, and my nephew keeps saying he's sorry. It's just hard right now to want them around. Don't even know what to do about the ring, and every time I think about it, it just makes me so mad that it's hard to care about their situation. Does that make me a jerk? Not the jerk. They sold the ring. I think so too. At this point, why won't his nephew say where it went? The thing with kleptomaniacs is they often don't know what to do with the things they steal. They may have washed it down the sink, flushed it down the toilet, buried it in the garden, etc., just to hide it. It's not so much about having things, it's about taking them. It's highly unfortunate that he took something so important, and his parents definitely need to get him help and should have done so already, which could have prevented this. Okay, I want to make a couple of suggestions. The first is to use a metal detector in and around your house and yard. The second is, if his parents really haven't sold it, think about where you might hide something if you were a kid. Somewhere that seems like a permanent and safe hiding space, especially if he knew he was moving and wouldn't be able to take it on him. As a kid, I always felt like the backyard was a permanent space. Look under bricks that can be moved or in any trees. The third thing I was thinking, make a report with the police. If it's possible to scare him into talking, it will. If you and he need other resources, they may be able to point you in the right direction. His parents are responsible for him. You can't just let a year's worth of savings go. Even if they can't pay it back right away, they might say, but we're family, let it go. But equally, family wouldn't want you to lose a year's worth of your savings and to have had such a monumental milestone for you ruined. Also, think about things like pockets on clothing and in wardrobes. Another suggestion, do you have floorboards? What would you do in this situation? Would you let them keep living with you or not? Please let us know. I would have kicked them out long ago, the first time he stole something from me. Was it wrong of me to defend my husband at my son's engagement dinner? I, 45 female, only use Reddit for the cats, so bear with me here. My husband, 55 male, and I have a son who I'll call Logan, who's 22 male. Logan is engaged to his girlfriend, Jenny, 27 female. She was a regular at a grocery store where he worked at as a cashier, and Logan asked her out. The age difference and my son's youth, edit, since he's only 22, bothers me since he could get someone his own age as he's very handsome. Last weekend, we were flown over by Jenny to her parents' house for dinner to celebrate their engagement. It was obvious that we were from two different worlds. While Jenny is a polite girl, she is a money-minded person. She works in a white-collar industry where she literally makes 8 to 9 times more than my husband does. She also has expensive taste. She clearly learned this from her parents. They live in an enormous house and make a lot of money. They had maids. My husband and me are a lot more humble. He's a veteran and works as a mechanic. I'm a stay-at-home mom. We started talking about our kids' childhoods. I hate to say it, but Logan was a difficult kid to raise. He cried very easily, would always talk about ridiculous things, and lied and hid things. My husband told a story about how Logan failed the ASVAB in high school, but instead of telling the truth, he ran away and hid at the playground. He was 17 at the time. Logan also was not allowed to join the military at 18 because of his low scores, though he was physically fit. Jenny's father said that in Singapore, where they are immigrants from, all men had to join the military for 2 years and education was important. Jenny made a comment about how Singapore has a narrow definition of success. My husband then joked that the only reason Logan wanted to marry Jenny was because she was rich and smart, and he could coast with her wealth. Edit. Logan told us how he planned to be a stay-at-home husband for Jenny, even though they don't have or want to have kids. Jenny's parents were furious and immediately began to insult me and my family. Her mom said that they didn't want their only child to marry a dumb gold digger, plus some choice words about our family. I yelled back at her, said my husband was right, and they didn't understand the value of hard work sitting in their chairs all day, and Jenny should have realized that no 22-year-old good-looking guy would want to marry someone older than him. She might be ready to settle down, but he isn't. We all left. with Logan and Jenny leaving separately. My son called and asked why I would embarrass him like that. I told him we were being honest. He sounded teary and yelled at me. He said his life was bad because of my husband. I admit, my husband was strict, but that was only because of what Logan did. I told Logan that it was his fault, and if he hadn't been the way he was, my husband would have been much more relaxed, and that Logan would one day thank us for raising him. Edit. Logan is not my husband's biological son. My husband and I married at 30 and 40 when Logan was 7. You're the jerk. How are you? Let me count the ways. 1. Started out mocking your son in front of his in-laws. 2. Acting snotty about a successful couple and their successful daughter. Jealous much? 3. Mock your son for wanting to be a stay-at-home husband when you're a stay-at-home wife. 4. Act like your son's girlfriend is a cougar when there's only a 5-year age difference, when there are 10 years between you and your husband. 5. Doing a lousy job raising your son. That's enough for now. I doubt you'll take any of this to heart anyway. Here's hoping the younger folks work out their issues and have a lovely wedding without you there. Just looking at this list, it becomes immediately clear what a disaster OP and OP's husband are. Who goes to meet their future in-laws and decides that appropriate conversation is insulting their own son, culminating in accusing him of being a gold digger. And then, when the future in-laws begin to question the son's intentions, they turn around and insult them too. OP, you and your husband need to look past the enormous chips on your shoulders to see how inappropriate and cruel you're being to your son, Jenny, and Jenny's family. Don't be surprised when your son goes no contact with you. Obviously, you're the jerk. And what world is 4 years in age difference of any significance? Keep your nose out of other people's business. Also, your kid is 22 now. You aren't a stay-at-home mother anymore, unless you have other kids who are younger. You're the jerk. Also, if you think that age gap is bad, then what about your own with your husband? Is your own past and background clouding your opinions? Seems like a smidge of projection going on here. Am I the jerk for demanding someone's seat and getting them fired? At short notice, I had to get a train with my 2 kids, who are 1 and 3. I booked us tickets with assigned seats and packed plenty of distractions for them. When the train arrived, it was clearly overcrowded, and our seats were taken by a couple in business attire and company lanyards. They had covered the seats next to the 4 in a square around a table with their bags and clearly weren't intending to move. I asked them if they were in the wrong seats, and I was ignored. I raised my voice slightly and asked them to check that they were in the right seats, as I had booked them, 3 seats total. I was told to buzz off, back to my deadbeat baby daddy. I was furious. Luckily, another passenger alerted a train guard who removed them from the carriage after a lot of back and forth, insults, and threats towards us. I was very shaken up, but a number of passengers offered support, made my kids laugh, and said they'd keep an eye on us. During the journey, a passenger insisted I should have the video he had taken of the altercation. Another passenger provided the names and company information of the 2 people, displayed on their lanyards. Multiple people recommended I follow up with an email to their company and offered to be a witness. I didn't do this then. After speaking to my husband, I emailed the company with a full explanation of what happened and asked that they speak with their employees. In their reply, they said I was one of a number of people emailing about this incident, with video evidence and witness accounts. They had already suspended the employees, but now I, as the victim, had emailed they would be terminated immediately in line with company policy. I felt awful. I never expected them to lose their jobs, and I felt shell-shocked. My husband called it karma, but several friends think I should have never reported them and told the other passengers not to either. Am I the jerk for getting them fired? Bruh, your friends told you not to report them? I'm sorry, but your friends are idiots. You didn't get them fired. Their nasty behavior got them fired. Please try to recognize that you are not responsible for this incident or the consequences, not the jerk. Yup, they shouldn't have been entitled jerks in the first place, so that's 100% on them. On top of that, it's nobody's fault but their own that they were foolish enough to act so rudely in broad daylight while openly advertising their company IDs and lanyards. They very well might have also been on company time. Regardless, they're the ones who made fools of themselves, and they're the ones who made their company look bad with their behavior. Not the jerk. Do crappy things to other people, and you sometimes get crappy consequences. They not only insulted, but actually threatened you guys. Their behavior is far beyond the bounds of intolerable, and the outcome is nobody's fault but their own. You didn't get them fired. They got them fired. They are 2 really, really horrible people, and they brought this on themselves with their own horribleness. And it's not like you knew they would be fired. It was perfectly reasonable of you to make a complaint to their employer who they were representing in public. Look at it this way. You may have helped give them the kick in the pants that they needed to become better human beings. Am I the jerk for no longer helping my stepdaughter? So I, 38 female, have been with my husband John, 40 male, for over 6 years now, and we have 2 kids. He has a daughter, Kim, who's 15, that I've been helping him raise since he was 9, and our son Sam, who's 6 months. Her mother isn't in her life anymore due to reasons unknown to us. The problem started off after I asked Kate if she could help me with some chores around the house while I took care of Sam. We got into a fight over which one of us should do dishes, when she yelled that I'm not her real mother and locked herself in her room. When John came home, I expected him to talk some reason into her, but after their talk, he ended up agreeing with her. They both sat me down and he told me that she was right to say that I'm not her mother because I'm not, and that I overstepped my boundaries by asking her to clean. According to John, her only focus should be on her homework and housework should be my job. I'll be honest in saying that I was heartbroken at that moment. I've always thought of her as my daughter and have treated her as such. To find out that she doesn't feel the same way and that my husband supports this decision made me lose a lot of love for both of them. I told them that I would respect their wishes, but I warned them that I would no longer go out of my way to help her. He can raise her, and I would spend my time raising Sam. He agreed. True to my word, I have not helped her with homework. She either has to get a ride from her dad in the morning or take the city bus. I no longer put money away for her college fund and have used that money to start Sam's. All I do is cook and do her laundry, and that's it. Both my husband and Kim haven't adjusted well to this new arrangement, and I can't help but feel like a jerk for keeping this up. I've confessed to my best friend about this, and she says that I'm not, because this is exactly what they asked for, and if they wanted it to stop, they would simply apologize. So I need unbiased opinions. Am I the jerk? You have a husband problem. Kids do chores. It's part of growing up and being responsible. Yes, there are reasonable limits to them, and homework comes first. But whether you are biologically related to her is irrelevant, and their focus on that is simply hurtful. Stop doing her laundry. Stop cooking for her. Those are for her, not for the house. And I don't know what arrangement you have with your husband, but his telling a teenager in your home that you have no right to tell her to do anything, insisting that all housework is your job, and claiming you overstepped by giving instruction to a kid you have co-parented for 6 years is ridiculous. I think you need some couples and family counseling. Not the jerk, but please realize that this situation cannot continue. All lines of fracture in this household are only going to get worse. It's pretty typical for a teen to say mean things to their parents when they don't want to do chores. It's not right, but a mother isn't going to completely pull back from their kid over it. The problem here is really the husband. OP, not the jerk, as her actions are more about consequences for the husband than the daughter, which is why not making this girl dinner would be wrong. I have to wonder if this is more about husband being resentful of the new baby and taking out his frustrations on OP via the daughter. It just makes no sense for him to have this "you're not her mom" attitude. Husband is so awful. The kid didn't say that in the heat of the moment. She decided to go to her dad and have a sit down with OP to do what she did. The husband is wrong for sure, but the kid also needs to learn the consequences to her actions. Not the jerk. Why are you even doing her laundry? She's 15 and old enough to do it herself. She should be doing chores around the house too. Your husband really handled this poorly, and his statement that you overstepped boundaries by asking her to help is complete BS. Good luck. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her husband? Please let us know. Sounds like Daddy's raising a Karen to me. You want all of the students to not follow the school uniform? Okay. A few years ago, I retired from teaching in the UK, and I particularly love the stories of malicious compliance from schools and colleges. The recent threads about malicious compliance by students, which teachers had to take on the chin, brought back many memories, so I thought I'd share one which involves me and my students, and which happened in my first year of teaching in 1981. I was fresh out of college and went to teach science in a secondary, 11 to 16, school in a rural town in which a lot of the students were the kids of farmers and could be quite a challenge. I was only a few years older than some of them, and I was walking a very fine line between wanting to be liked and having some level of respect and authority, something which every new teacher will remember. I had replaced a popular teacher and had been given his tutor group, home group, and they weren't making it easy for me. To be fair, I probably deserved it. One of the main protagonists was a boy whose father was a successful farmer who happened to be chair of the governors and who was always keen to protest when he wasn't happy with something. We'll call him SH, as those were his initials, and this was 40 years ago. The other person involved in this story is the head of year. I'll call him Jordy. Was an old-timer who had been unsuccessful when applying for the deputy headship, and so there was a fair amount of resentment bubbling away, which he tended to take out on the students, and occasionally staff. Our school had a uniform policy. I didn't have a problem with this, as it does act as a bit of a leveler, especially when families can't afford the latest fashion, and as tutor, it was my job to make sure everyone was appropriately dressed, which I was doing the best of my ability. Anyway, many of the kids were in basic uniform, but they sometimes pushed the limits of what was acceptable. A common problem was whether footwear was trainers or shoes, but as long as their appearance was within the spirit of the rules, I was pretty much okay with it. Jordy, however, was not. At a team meeting, he went on a rant about how standards were being allowed to slip and that we were not being vigilant enough. He reminded us that it was our job to maintain standards and ended with the demand that the next day we send to him any student who was not in proper uniform. He waved the school handbook at us and told us if we didn't know what this was, we could find it in there. I was upset. I was walking a fine enough line with these students, and this wasn't going to make my life any easier. Cue the malicious compliance. I checked the school handbook very carefully, and the next morning I was ready. After I had taken the register, I announced that anyone not in proper school uniform would be reporting to Mr. Jordy. Groans and protests. First of all, I sent a couple of jerks who were always pushing things too far, but then I began the malicious element. The regulations said black V-neck jumper. Yours has a round neck. Down you go. Is that a logo on your shirt? It says plain white here. Off you go. The regs also specified plain black socks. They had been written some years earlier and never reviewed. In the early 80s, many kids wore white socks. I know. So down went all the white socks, and the atmosphere in the classroom got distinctly more hostile towards me. Then I singled out SH, the class mouthpiece. Down you go, I insisted. He was furious and came right up to me and was almost in my face. He demanded to know why, so I told him. He was wearing black socks, but I had noticed they had two colored bands around the top. I explained that the rules specifically said plain black socks and that his were not plain. He was mad and our eyes locked, and then it happened. To this day, I remember how his face changed as he realized that this was not me against him, it was us against Jordy. He then went round the class, helpfully pointing out all the minor infringements that I had missed, and we ended up sending every kid in the class, apart from 3 or 4 who were in full uniform, and who were frankly disappointed not to be sent down. Jordy had gone hard on the first few who were sent down, and then couldn't treat the others differently, so he got it from the parents who didn't appreciate being contacted about these socks. Shortly after this, the rules were rewritten to be more flexible as long as the spirit of the uniform was upheld. From that day on, I had a fantastic tutor group. SH became head boy and was a credit to the school and worked as hard for me as any other student I taught since. And in 40 years of teaching, despite many instances of malicious compliance, I never managed to top the time my students collaborated with me in an act of malicious compliance. Just find room for 10 extra pallets of soda. I used to work for a national soda company. My job is to swing by stores several times a day and restock the shelves from supplies in the back rooms. 4th of July is by far the busiest day of the year, as most stores have big sales. At the time I worked, a common sale was 5 12-packs for $10. Anywho, the problem each year is that there just isn't enough space in stores' back rooms to have enough products to last the entire day. So what should happen is that drivers do extra deliveries to keep products on the shelves. Well, my boss had decided he doesn't want to pay overtime on a holiday, so this year he has a plan. We will order more product than we have space for and put our product in areas reserved for other vendors and the store itself. So July 3rd, the load shows up. Right away, it's apparent that there is just way too much stuff, even if I use space I'm not supposed to, and the backroom manager is upset with me because my pallets are in the way of everyone else trying to get their stuff in and out. I call my boss and let him know this is never going to work out, and they need to come do buyback on some of the pallets. He tells me to make it work and hangs up. Cue malicious compliance. I grab a pallet jack and walk the entire pallet out onto the floor of the store. This store has narrow aisles. I go to the soda aisle and drop the pallet. It completely takes up the aisle. Customers can't walk in or out. Repeat about a dozen times. Then I leave for the day. I get a call from my boss. he isn't happy with me. He wants me to go back to the store and somehow find space that doesn't exist. I tell him I've already had a few drinks and won't be driving anywhere. He tells me I'm fired and hangs up. Whatever, I've got other job offers, and now I can go hang out at my buddy's barbecue and watch fireworks. I get a call at 6 a.m. from my boss. He's losing it on me because we start at 4 a.m. on the 4th. I told him he told me I was fired, so I'm at home sleeping in. He tells me he was just joking and I need to go get to work now. I tell him that I've already taken an offer working for a competing company. Not true, but he doesn't know. And they're paying me $5 more per hour than he is, and 5 extra days PTO. If he wants me back, I want $6 more per hour, and an extra 6 days of PTO. He gets mad at me and hangs up. Whatever, I go back to sleep. 5 minutes later, my boss calls again. He tells me that he will do it, but I have to leave now. Sounds like Pepsi. I used to work for Pepsi, and they did this kind of crap every holiday, and it was always on the merchandisers, not the brain-dead salesmen, to make the stores happy with these cluster messes. So glad I got out. Forget them. Entitled Mom wants me to give her son an expensive Gundam kit for free. For context, I work at a store that specializes in Japanese imported items, such as toys, gadgets, and electronics, and all of it is good quality for a good price. But sometimes we get imported very high-end stuff, so to compensate for how much the shipment cost, we have to boost the price. In this story, a whiny brat wants a Gundam building kit that is around $50 to $100, and I can't remember that part exactly. Cast: we've got entitled mother, we've got the bratty kid, we've got my manager, Jackson, and we've got me, Gas Mask Gary. Here's how it went down. I was at work, sketching and waiting for someone to come to my register. I doodle a lot, at home or on the job, as at the time, I was doing this job mid-high school to early college, where I majored in art, specifically cartoons and animation. And then, some arrogant-looking mother with bad fashion taste walks in with her bratty weeaboo son. I think nothing of it, as people like this walk in all the darn time. But things start getting bad when he whines about wanting one of the more high-end Gundam Figma build kits near the display shelf in the back. They come to the register after arguing over which one to get. They decided on a highly coveted Unicorn Gundam with a metallic yellow-gold look on the plastic. Entitled Mom: hello there, sir. We would like to purchase this toy. Me: okay, let me scan this for you. I proceed to do so, and it popped up as a low-end $15 product that looked similar but was obviously different. I had a look of confusion on my face. Entitled Mom: what's the darn holdup? It's my son's birthday, and I don't want to ruin it for him. Me: well, this product has the wrong price tag. It's coming up as $15 instead of $40. Well, it's just a toy. It's not worth much. Come on, just go with its current price. Me: well, if I do, I'll get fired, and you might get arrested once my boss finds out. Entitled Brat: Mom, I want the cool robot. Shut up, sweetie. Mommy's talking to the big greedy man here. At this point, you could see how upset I was. See, what I did was I went to the shelf it was on and scanned the other box of the same kit, and what do you know? It was $40. So I told her and she flipped. She calls me some names that I definitely can't type out here. Entitled Mom with boiling blood: you jerk! You are ruining my little boy's special day. I just wanted to buy him a cool toy that he actually wants. I just sat on my chair while she yelled at me, cranked up my tunes on my Bluetooth earbuds, and didn't listen. I wasn't gonna take crap from her. Eventually, she left me alone and went back to the shelves. Minutes later, she leaves, but the alarm goes off. These stupid people tried to shoplift and got caught. They had taken the Gundam kit and were taken in by the cops. I don't know the rest because I wasn't there, but I haven't seen them since, so maybe they were banned. Am I the jerk for telling my sister's friends she inherited her house when she says she bought it? My dad passed too young. He was only 65, never got to enjoy retirement. Doctor said stress heart attack. He was bedridden, passed a week later. That was 6 years ago. I was 30 and well into my IT career. He knew he was dying, asked me if I needed anything material. I said no, I just want him to live. He couldn't give me that. My mom felt the same, didn't want to live alone, so she lives with her sister, also widowed. My sister was 34, divorced, 2 kids, struggling with money. Dad left her his house and, with Mom's blessing, most of his money. He gave me a generous sum for my future family, enough to my mom for the rest of her life. Sister asked me how to invest. I advised her. Now she coasts off her interest. She blogs, identifies as a writer. She tells her tween kids about how she worked and saved for her house. I get that you want to make your kids value working hard, but when she says that stuff around me, I cringe. I'm not going to embarrass her in front of her own kids, though. She asked me to design her website. She's my sister, so of course I said I'd do it. On her About Me, she lists herself as a writer who raised 2 kids on her own. True, who is business savvy and bought a huge house in a tough market. No mention that our parents spent decades paying for it. I say, sis, this is mom and dad's house and they paid for it. But she just goes, la 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 la, I'm not hearing you talk. I'm thinking, whatever. I now have my own family, wife and a son who's 2 to worry about. One day, my sister throws a party to celebrate a self-published book about recipes. She invites me and my family and lots of her friends. So we're having a good time talking about this and that. Some of her friends talk to me and they tell me how amazing my sister is. No problem there. They say how she's a genius for balancing 2 kids and saving up to buy her huge house. Apparently, she had been parlaying the fact that our dad has passed to say my mom is also a single mom. All I say is, well, I grew up in this house too. My mom and dad bought it. He passed, and my mom agreed with my dad to leave it to her. My mom lives with her sister upstate. Several of her friends tell me about how my sister is so amazing to buy such a nice big house and juggle being a single mom. Often I just said, I grew up in this house too. Later on, my sister texts me the next day how I was a jerk for telling her friends that my dad willed her the house. I ask, why am I a jerk? I was not being malicious, I was being accurate. She says that our dad wouldn't mind, and also she says property tax is huge, so technically she's paying for the house and should be credited for that. She says I should stop saying she inherited the house when people ask. I say I will refuse to say anything when asked about the house, but that I will not say inaccurate things. She says I'm being a jerk and a hater. Am I the jerk?
Huge shout out to Melissa, our newest official channel member. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. It really means the world to Reddit Boy and I. Support our channel by joining as a member today, and we'll give you a shout out in our next video.
Or come watch this video next. You won't believe what Karen does in that one.